Reclaiming Timeless Ways, another episode underway. Mike Traster, Simon Fuller, glad to have you along with us for the episode titled
Finding a mentor.
Don't Look Here.
Me neither.
All right, finding a mentor. What do you got up your
Which is
sleeve?
not like the Dementor from Harry Potter.
These are never pre-rehearsed, so I really, truly, rarely, not never, rarely, once in a while we have a little off-air discussion, but rarely do I know what's coming out of Mike's mouth next.
I'm not sure.
And then I just jump in.
Now, usually I'll write a conceptual, a very, very simple conceptual outline.
Well, that's just to keep us on task.
Right. This time I haven't done that.
Okay.
I mean, I've thought about these things. Each one of these subjects that we've talked about today, I've given them some thought.
I've got to believe trust is a big one in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to enter into a relationship,
Right.
trust better be a cornerstone. Well, that's a cornerstone of any relationship.
That's true. You have to take a risk,
You do.
you know? I mean, I wound up with this amazing mentor teacher in nursing school. She was a great teacher. She would ask me, I would ask her a question, she would say, well, what do you think? Well, I didn't want to think, I wanted you to just spit out an answer.
Yeah. Tell me and let me
Right,
let
just
me lock it
download,
in. Yeah.
Download, I want to take notes from your vast knowledge. Probably at least 10 to 1, the ratio of her knowledge to
Yeah.
mine. So I guess you have to express an interest,
Sure.
and you have to show maybe some passion about knowing something. Make an effort,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe connect with that person on the grounds of you have some sort of similarity in terms of your how you relate to a subject,
Sure.
right? Like if she was just a nuts and bolts nurse, this is problem number one. Problem number one uses 1A and 1B solution, and that's it.
Right.
That wouldn't work for me,
Yeah.
you know. I want to know how these things interact and work. That's me,
Right.
you
right.
know. It's a flow of ideas, and you're always open to new. No, this is the rule. This is how it's always been done. That's it.
Right.
Screw that. You know. I mean, I would have succeeded. I would have survived, but I don't think I would have thrived.
Yeah.
You know. I think sometimes you look for a mentor, and you never find them.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I lived in Oregon, there was a guy in Scappoose, which is out Highway 30, about 20 miles from Portland or so, and he built stringed instruments.
Okay.
And he had all these jigs that you would take the raw wood. I don't remember what kinds of woods. I read a few books on building instruments. So I was really interested in it. And I saw him at a local city fair, and he sold violins to the school for $200 a piece.
Okay.
So he made them affordable, right? But I guess he was pretty good at what he did. I think he built violins and violas and guitars. I don't know if he built any of the other,
Cello or
yeah. So I found him. It took me a long time. I finally found him just by persistence and just luck. And I met him, and we talked for a while, and he said he was going to retire. And I said, is there any way I could learn from you? And he said, no. And I asked him and asked him and asked him and asked him, and I got nothing but no. So, and I've looked at other places, but it would require me to move, which sometimes is a temptation. But I've never found that, you know? So that one's a goose egg for me thus far. It may remain a goose egg. You know, I think there's got to be a couple of professional schools that teach that.
So you've got quite an interest in stringed instruments, I gather.
Well, yeah, we're just repairing instruments, yeah. Yeah.
Because I gotta believe you're right. Passion and interest, which are kinda one and the same,
Yeah.
that's gotta be there,
Yeah.
'cause,
Because that person will pick up on that.
Yeah.
So they will know, oh, or I would like to go in a transmission shop.
yeah,
Same thing.
yeah,
2 or 3 hours a week. I would work for minimum flipping wage.
yeah,
And just say, show me one task, or I'll go pick up parts for you
right,
and do it. And then maybe after a month, give me another hour or two.
Yeah.
And I can learn 1% of your mastery.
yeah,
Not 2, 1%. Then maybe a second percent after another month or two. Hopefully I could learn that much,
yeah,
So that would be another one. And I've asked some people, there was a fairly affluent farmer who used to be affluent, but he spent his money like a showman. He wound up broke. But I did some favors for him, and I asked him one day, can you help me get connected with somebody like this? Oh, I'll look around.
yeah,
Nothing. I asked him 3 or 4 times. And so a lot of times, you look and you ask, and you keep looking, and you don't find what you want.
right,
You don't know, it's like, in the movies, you always, it's always Kevin Costner, and if you build it, they will come.
yeah,
That's magical, and there's little like sparkles in the air, and little bells ringing, and angels coming, and Tinkerbell comes with her magic wand, bling. Sometimes we get a goose egg,
yeah,
So you have a kind of an informal list in your head, or a formal one. I tend to remain more informal, of things you'd like to learn. Knife making would have been another one. Carl Schroen was my welding instructor in California. He's also a world-class knife and sword maker. Bugged the shit out of him to teach me. He had one apprentice every 3 or 4 years, and his apprenticeship was filled.
yeah,
And that was that. And he had this most extraordinary circumstance. He had a cement yurt. A yurt is like a tent
okay,
in his backyard, and it was like a house. It was maybe 14 feet across, and his apprentice lived in there for free. And his responsibility was take good care of it, supply your own materials, and learn. And anything you do to improve it stays there. Everything he taught was for free.
huh,
And his vision was to perpetuate his art,
yeah,
because he was inspired. And the word inspired means to be breathed into. So if you find a real mentor, it's somebody who's inspired.
yeah,
They love what they do, right?
yeah,
Now, that doesn't mean that they're hyperactive like a kid on a jumping toy, right? It just means that there's something there's a fire in their belly about that
Right.
thing. So if you keep looking, if you have a list of possibilities, like I wanted to learn how to adjust spines. I looked for years. I found that.
yeah,
I wanted to learn herbalism. And I found a few paths, and I'm a good beginner. I'm a very, very grounded beginner. I'm not a master herbalist. I would never say that,
So how does somebody go about finding that person in their whatever topic?
Well, I think you talk to people in the industry, and you express that question. You say, this has been something that's been on my mind with some passion and frustration, but it's like a dog with his teeth sunk in your leg.
Yeah,
It never lets me go. I keep thinking about it. Who do you know that I could learn from?
yeah,
And if you don't, who else could I ask?
yeah,
And then you ask the next guy the same question.
yeah.
you know?
Because that's a commitment of that individual as well.
It is, right. And then maybe they want to make sure that the person that they send you to is not going to have a negative experience,
Right.
right? So, and I mean, a couple times in my life, I try to help somebody, and I wound up having to apologize to the person I sent them to because they weren't straight up. And I did. I said, geez, I'm real sorry I sent that clown to you
Yeah.
because I trusted him he fooled me, you know?
It's a topic I don't have a lot of. It's interesting. My wife's even asked me before, what really, really drives you or interests you? I can't think of one topic that I want to dive into that deep. I really can't. That might even be a sad thing to say out loud, but it's true. I don't know what makes me tick in that department. I like to be so average in so many different categories. I don't know that there's one that really just would evoke the passion that I think it would take for me to ask of somebody to give me their time, to really work, bring me into that world. Because I know, to me, I believe that you better be committed if you're gonna ask somebody else to commit that to you.
Right.
And I can't think of.
That's an excellent point.
And I don't think there's one topic that I would say,
How many
I'm gonna be
people
all
have-
in.
Well, no, because well, maybe you're the mentor. And this is your university.
No, we started the show, no, not me. Not the
maybe-
university of me, yeah.
This is your university. I mean, because people come through here and they learn.
Sure.
And you help them fine tune what they do.
I just think it's important to note that, that would be if you have a topic, you brought up some difference in the stringed instruments and repairs and transmissions and knives and a few topics that, I know you would, because I've learned about you through our interactions, you would give it all if they gave to you, and that's kind of your responsibility, mine or yours.
Right.
If you're gonna ask somebody to start out pouring, not just to kind of half-ass it, so to speak.
I made many attempts to share invention ideas with friends. I have never once gotten a single person to say, wow, maybe we could collaborate.
Yeah.
I've tried and tried and tried. Matter of fact, I remember my ex and I were looking at a medical journal once, and there was this machine, it was called an oblator, O-B-L-A-T-O-R, or E-R. And it was actually a high-speed reaming tool that was used to clean out garbage inside of obstructed arteries. And I looked at it, and I looked at the illustration. I said to my ex, this is going to kill people. And she looks at me and she goes, what do you know? With this, one of these dismissive acts. One of the reasons I'm very glad to be free. One of the things that destroys relationships is any expression of contempt.
Yeah.
That's like, I think they say there's a 93% probability that relationship will fail.
Yeah.
If that's not corrected. So anyway, I said to her, where's the debris going? It's going upstream. What happens to rivers? They go into smaller streams.
Right.
And what happens to the small stream? It goes to a smaller stream.
Dam up.
Exactly. And then what do you got? You got a dead guy. Well, that's exactly it. And I said to her, it needs a screen so they can pull the crap out after they pull it off the walls, all those particles. Well, 6 months later, I'm looking through Journal of American Medical Association, and there's an article on the oblator that was pulled off the market because it did exactly what I said it would do. So I kind of always had this little inventive
Right.
aspect to me, but it's kind of like, and maybe in a sense like your approach, but you're more focused. Mine kind of comes and goes, somewhat at random, but you have this ship to guide, But the idea of inventing was always a fun idea,
Yeah. To invest in Mike, call. I'll flash the number on the screen.
When they reintroduced the oblator, they put it back on the market with a screen.
Yeah.
And then it didn't kill people.
Imagine that.
Imagine that, right? Well, so why does that work? And that's, you see,
But that is your mind. You like to think about the full process, which is a good thing.
right, it's vital.
Yeah.
It's like learning to cross the street. Don't worry about the cars, just practice crossing No, you need to worry
Right.
about, the cars are an essential part of this process.
Right.
Right, and not secondary. So with my mentorship, now, when I learned to adjust spines, it was a school. The person who ran the school was one of the worst teachers I have ever experienced in my life. Because he spent all of his time telling everyone that he was the most brilliant person on the face of the earth. And he was far superior, vastly superior to everyone, and basically either stating or implying that he was a true master and you could emulate him, but you'd never reach his level. So he diminished and shamed his students. That's a sign of a horrible teacher,
Yeah.
you know? And what you would want is somebody like Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth that says, you know what, let me show you one thing. You get that right, and then we'll do another. And they got a twinkle, they got this light in their eyes because they love it, and they're just absolutely elated that this little 8-year-old kid loves it too.
Yeah.
They're celebrated.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. The mentor has to be celebrating their art,
Yeah.
right?
So choosing the right one is key too.
Yeah. Right art?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna find, I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think it's in my DNA to be a world-class mathematician. Not even a county class mathematician. I don't think that's one of my potential areas of spreading my wings and flying over high mountains, you know. I could be wrong, but I haven't found it yet, you know. It's deeply hidden if it's there. So mentor, a mechanic, same thing, you know, maybe you talk to 50 or 100 repair shops before you find somebody, or this. I don't know how it works. I think it used to be in the big cities, you had to go to a school to work in radio.
You know, once upon a time, but there are some communication schools, but that world is evolved, I would say. There's very few that are just specifically for radio anymore. They exist,
Oh, okay.
but there's not a lot of them. And just seems like even the job has changed just a little bit in what you do in the studio and how you do it. So
Right.
there's a lot of computer tied to it. There's a lot of journalism, media would be more of the maybe context it would fall under. But yes, there are trade schools for this industry yet.
Or like I'm sitting here, like we're segueing as always, so I'm touching the table and I think, oh, you know, how would I learn to build a table like this? Well, I don't know, but I mean, because there's so many different things going on. How are these tops formed? Look at the precision, you know, in this, how it's beautifully polished, how all the parts fit together. This radius is so perfect, you know, how the inlay and the radius and how the different pieces of the radius are formed together, and how I would assume this is mass produced. So somebody did it.
Probably,
Probably, but I don't know that.
right.
But maybe the one, like if you have an interest in that, you call up a cabinet maker and you say, what one skill can I practice first?
Yeah.
One thing, you know, and then a second thing, you know, maybe there's 100 things or more,
Yeah.
you know. So the mentor might not be a mentor, it might be
Sure.
playing with something.
Sure.
You know, maybe I'll find a smashed guitar at a yard sale and learn to glue it.
If I find one, you know I'm picking it up now.
Uh-oh, okay, good, good.
And then we'll have a before and after episode.
Right? It looked better before. Why don't you cross that one off your list? Hello, Red Cross. Simon, did Mike kill another guitar? He did.
It could be a PSA had to try to find you a proper mentor after all. That guy in Oregon said no. Well, dang it, we're gonna find you a mentor.
Yeah.
If you do work on stringed instruments, please give Mike a call.
Yeah, that would be fun. I actually read 3 or 4 books. I can't remember if it was mahogany. There was a Brazilian wood that was used, I think, in the making of guitar bodies.
That's like one of the more common woods you're saying?
Yeah, I think it was like mahogany and teak, maybe. I don't remember.
I don't know.
I'm stretching like 18, 19 years ago. There was a book or two I had read from the library in Newburgh, Oregon, on that. It was very interesting because they had all these molds or jigs that were
Sure.
set up, and then you would have to go out and buy your materials,
Yeah,
you know.
interesting.
And I think some of the wood, some of the curved part of the side of the guitar had to be wet
Yeah.
and then pressed into a form and then dried,
Makes sense.
right?
Interesting.
And, yeah, fascinating. But of course, you know, I mean, there's 100 things you might
Yeah.
want to be mentored at.
Yeah. Interesting. Not one of our typical episodes per se.
No.
But very much interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have, like you, something that has, kind of itched. Well,
Yeah.
maybe you can find someone to help you scratch it.
I heard somebody say something once. They said if you really have a passion to do something, it may or may not be practical to start it as a vocation.
Correct.
You may want to approach it as an avocation,
Yeah.
you know, so this is your hobby.
Oftentimes, I think that would probably be accurate. And go from there.
Exactly.
Maybe it turns into it, but
It could.
yeah.
It might be 1%, 0.5%, 1%. If you gain 1% every 3 months, in 4 or 5 years, ooh, you've made significant,
Right.
you know.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for yet another episode of Reclaiming Timeless Ways. That's a wrap. Have a great day.